Hello there, Alaskans, wherever you are. Welcome to the Must Read Alaska Show. Coming to you from somewhere in Alaska. This is the place where we talk about, you guessed it, Alaska. Where we keep the mainstream media on their toes and where we are standing up for what's right in a world run by leftists. You can find out more by heading over to mustreadalaska.com and also checking out the Must Read Alaska YouTube channel for some really great content. But first, let's get this party started.
Well, welcome everybody to the Must Read Alaska Show. I'm your host, John Quick, and boy, do we have a special treat for you today. A couple weeks ago, we got a chat with Alaska's own Instagram star, Danica, who has the Instagram handle Grow in Alaska. And today we get to talk with Nate, who is the president of Alaska and Yukon Tours. But before we go into that, I want to thank all of our listeners on the Must Read Alaska Show. We do this for you, and we're excited that you tune into us every single week. We have 3 or 4 shows a week, and we're going to be featuring some businesses here in the next couple months over the summer, just to kind of highlight what's going in and around Alaska, how our businesses doing, highlighting some of the cool things that businesses offer in the state of Alaska. And we think that's going to be so far so good. Our guests really like the last couple ones that we have done, and we're going to keep on doing them. For those of you that are have either a Android phone or a iPhone, you can also get our app, which is free on any of those app stores. Just search Must Read Alaska, and the app will pop right up. It's free for you. We spend a lot of time and effort and money into developing that app, and it's yours to use for free. We've heard some great things about it, and I use it myself, and I like it. So without further ado, Nate, welcome to the Must Read Alaska Show.
Thank you.
It's good to have you. So for folks that maybe are hearing your name and your business's name for the first time, tell us a little bit about who you are and what your business is.
Thanks. Well, moved here in 2009 from Key West. Was asked to step in with a friend's business who bought Wings of Alaska, and only planned on being here for the summer. And everyone had told me how cold Alaska was, how no one ships up here. People thought, it was going to be dark all winter, minus 40 degrees. And I was actually really surprised. When you come from a tropical environment to Juneau, it's kind of an eye-opener because, number one, it's raining sideways all the time. The beauty of the state really caught me off guard. And the fact that Juneau being, only 30,000 people, we had quite the infrastructure for a town of 30,000. And just being in Alaska, being with people where, for the first time in my life, I got to know my neighbors. We had get-togethers, and I know this sounds like a sitcom, that you used to see on TV in the 80s and 90s, but, really had a nice sense of community here in Alaska. I lived in Florida for who knows how many years, and I never wanted to be my neighbor. They just ignore you. A traffic jam meant it took an hour to get anywhere in town, but yet here in Juneau, it's literally 15 minutes to anywhere. So it was kind of a change, and I decided to stay, and I'd held on to my previous job with Mokulele Airlines in Hawaii. I've been with them since 2006, and they allowed me to work from home before it became popular. And dealing with a small airline, we've had 5 owners now in years. They've allowed me to expand my, what I do in terms of my career with them. A lot of owners didn't understand, do I need a director of revenue, director of sales for what we were doing intra-island in Hawaii? And so they let me do side work. And one of the things I noticed was coming from a travel agent background as my very first job was airlines don't know how to manage travel. They just expect, you go on Expedia, Hotwire, Kayak,
yep,
and get the best rates, but that's not the case. There's contracts out there. There's negotiations you can do with a lot of hotels to get better deals. And so we kind of ventured into that and became a travel agency. And then right before COVID hit, my agents had asked, hey, can we start doing leisure travel. We're here in Alaska, but yet, people call us and we wouldn't sell them an Alaska trip. Uh, so right before COVID hit is when we made that change, um, which is kind of unfortunate to start doing more leisure because we found out when people come to Alaska, most of the packages and options are geared toward the interior. And there's nothing wrong with that. But Anchorage, Fairbanks, Kenai, Peninsula, Seward, you already get a nice influx of independent travelers, whereas in Southeast, the cruise lines really have had a stronghold on that. They want you on a cruise ship. And so we started doing packages for Southeast Alaska, and it's actually been really busy because it's cheaper than a cruise. If you come to Juneau for 5 days, we can pitch on whale watches, fishing. You can go to Taku Lodge. We have dog sleds. We have helicopters. You can all do that from Juneau, and you don't even need a car rental, which is becoming more of an important item with the way car rental rates are going. And then we give people options to go to Skagway for a couple of days or Glacier Bay. Huna, we now have a bear watch, which is about half the price that other people have. And now the interior. We've been sending a lot of people up to Anchorage after Juneau, and they're going Seward for the day. They're doing the Whittier trips with the 26 Glacier tour, and more importantly, Denali. People forget in Alaska that we have two railroads. You have the Alaska Railroad, which covers most of the important points. We also have Princess Rail, which offers a different product and a different departure. And so with that, we've expanded our options to where even travelers weren't aware, that you can do all this and still be under budget for a cruise. So that's kind of where we are. Our focus is kind of gone more towards the leisure travel and independent travel instead of focusing on corporate and managing airline travel.
Nice. Well, for folks that are just joining us, I have a guest today. His name is Nate, and he is the president of Alaska and Yukon Tours. And man, if you are thinking about booking any sort of trip around Alaska, either for you or a friend or a family, this guy sounds like he's got you covered. He can help you book a phenomenal package tour anywhere in Alaska, which is kind of cool. So, Nate, what's one of your favorite places to go in Alaska now that you've kind of, your business is focused on helping other people experience Alaska and kind of have their bucket list trips and make sure that they have the time of their life while they're here. What's one of your favorite places to go in Alaska?
It's really hard to say. When you live in the lower 48, we have the ability to be mobile and drive. Like in Florida, we've been all over the state, and the Southeast, a lot, Southeast America, and Mid-South. But here in Alaska, the challenge is we're such a big state, it's hard to go anywhere, and when you do, people are wowed. First time I went to Homer, I was shocked. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then I go to Whittier, and I'm like, holy moly, this is really cool. And then even Fairbanks, 2 weeks ago, I discovered things I never knew about. And I can't say there's a favorite spot because I would go back anywhere. It's great going to Haines and just walking around, or even Skagway. Just seeing everyone so excited. So it's really hard to really pinpoint. Honestly, home. I used to travel so much, with balancing my part-time job with Mokulele Airlines and then the travel agencies. We have agents, all over the states that, I want to be home. But to that point, when you become a tourist where you live, it changes everything. I've really appreciated a lot of the things in Juneau I thought I never would, and a lot of that's just because when you're working so much or you live somewhere, you don't go and do things. And so I really got to say, everywhere new becomes my new favorite spot.
That's awesome.
It's hard to really pick one. But hopefully, my next goal is to go to Alaska and Adak at some point. I've got some Alaska Airlines miles to burn, and I might do that. Head out there for a couple of days to check out. The tribe out there is really trying to increase tourism in Adak, and I think that's going to be one of our next opportunities because as they refurbish some of the old naval housing out there, they make it more tourist friendly, especially with birding and wildlife. We have such a big state, and it's an amazing state. And every time I go somewhere, I see something new. And even in Anchorage, we went up to Flat Top, I have been up there a couple of times, but this last trip we saw 3 moose just on the way up there. I'm like, oh wow, you know. Now I see how tourists in Juneau feel when they see a bald eagle for the first time or a bear, because we're just like, oh yeah, fine, we keep on driving. Um, so that's always been enjoyable. But yeah, just being a tourist where you live, I think is most probably the best thing you can do in Alaska.
Nice. So, um, it sounds like you've been around the state a fair bit. And hearing your story, you kind of opened during COVID. So how was it during COVID, and how is it kind of now that you're hopefully on the tail end of it? What was that experience like?
So the struggle was real right before COVID. So as a travel agent, we actually make money from commissions on airfare and hotel. So when people go on Expedia, when you go on Kayak, when you go on any other website, typically that business makes their money with the commission. And retail travel agents are the same way. So when COVID hit, it was really scary because we had a lot of corporate travel along with some independent travel. We had a lot of people book on cruises, because we had just started doing more and more retail. And it was it was a huge challenge because personally, my savings got wiped out. Our business, it's automatic the way it works with airline tickets, where we get paid that commission the next week when we book a ticket for you, even if you're traveling in the future. But when they cancel that flight, they take it right out of my bank account. And that was really scary because we used to have it's one thing my father taught me as a kid, was always make sure you have money in the bank, never put anything on credit. So luckily we didn't have any loans. The hardest part during COVID was seeing everyone else struggle. And this is where, I was very active with the legislature and, quoted in a handful of media outlets, because tourism in Southeast really is a lifeblood. Hearing my friends wonder how they're going to put food on their table. Just seeing the huge impact we had. Like I told the legislature, I went to Skagway, and you could see tumbleweed going down Broadway, which is the main road. And it was heartbreaking for me to then travel during COVID to Homer, where, again, my first trip, and it was amazing. Everything was open. People were acting like nothing was really going on. Business down there was down 40%. The interior had, again, some hits with it. But like in Southeast, we went pretty much down we lost about 100% of our business. And that was really scary. But, we adapted. We focused more on letting independents know we're open. We really struggled with some of the tourism groups, because as cruises were canceled, people thought we were closed. People thought you can't come to Alaska. And so trying to get that message out was a bit of a challenge, because we were expecting to see 1.1 million cruise tourists. And, there's an opportunity to let those people know, hey, we're still here. So, 2020 was a rough year. 2021 was really good. But the challenge with COVID and travel has to deal with the ever-changing COVID mandates and ever-changing face mask requirements kept a lot of people away. It's miserable to be on a flight and have to wear a mask for a red-eye to Seattle or even cross-country, and that kept a lot of people away. And just the changes in how every nation was handling it. So you had to have a certain test or had to do it within a certain timeline. For Alaskans, that was a challenge because in Southeast, we don't have Walgreens. We don't have CVS where you can just go and get a test and you're good for Hawaii.
Yeah.
We had a lot of people getting turned around. And that was a hard part working both in Hawaii and owning a travel agency is, some of the archaic COVID requirements, like in Hawaii. If you had to run tests, instead of retesting at the airport, they would make you fly back. No option. And a lot of times it was full fare. This isn't an airline doing a favor for you, saying, oh, sorry, we're going to fly you back to LA. They had to cancel all your reservations. They literally stood with you at the airport till you got on the airplane to come back to Alaska, or California or Washington. And that really deterred a lot of people. And of course with my business, we had issues with even Canada, just getting into the Yukon. After a couple of trips, my driver quit because he had to get tested in Skagway, and then he had to get tested again in Whitehorse same day. And it was just getting insane. And in Whitehorse, there's only one clinic that did testing. The cost was about 220 CAD, which is about $150. And you had to have an appointment to get it. So even though our name is
that sounds like a blast.
Oh yeah, it just, when you set the expectation of here's what's needed, and then they keep changing it, it really gets under people's skin.
Yeah.
Especially with all these testing mandates right now. And I think that's been the biggest challenge we're even seeing today is, people keep asking me, do I have to have a vaccine card with me? They're used to California. I checked in at the Westin at LAX, and it blew my mind when, they don't ask for your ID and credit card, but I had to have my COVID or my vaccine card with me.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. It just kind of blew my mind. And even today, if you fly to certain airports, you have to wear a mask. So once you get off the airplane, what's going to happen in the gate area? It just seems a little, I think with COVID, everyone did it differently. Nobody was on the same page. We had a lot of people go to Disney, and they had a wonderful time at Disney. And everyone would blame them, oh my gosh, you're going to get COVID. And yet when you look at pictures of how Disney handled it, especially down in Florida, they don't want to be responsible for an outbreak, and people forget that, especially the cruise ships. Cruise ships took a big beating, but I was on a cruise on March 1st when all this was happening, and, I knew something was up when they were washing every elevator button, every night.
Like, wait a second, they don't normally do that.
No, and then they were trading out the tongs on the buffet every hour. And that's the thing people forget is tourism wants to be responsible. We don't want to get people sick, and they forget that. But what it's done is it's awakened people to washing their hands, being distant, being safe, and a new awareness of communicable diseases. It's funny when someone sneezes on a plane now, everyone kind of looks around. But I hope as a state we can grow from this, that we realize how reliant we are on tourism, how reliant we are on Seattle, and those barges. And I hope that we can work at ways to better from COVID, so that we're better prepared for it.
Yeah, so folks that are just listening, we got Nate here, who's the president of Alaska and Yukon Tours, and he's chatting with us about how COVID has affected his business, and talk about the Wild Wild West and him being just a trooper. He made the statement of, I lost about 100% of my business, and he still managed to bounce back. And so for folks that are listening, this is real world stuff. Politicians and elected officials sit in their little ivory tower sometimes and make really stupid decisions. And when the majority of a certain sector relies on tourism, things get affected. And so I appreciate you being open and honest, Nate. But the next question to you is this. Let's say there's somebody, I got a relative, I got a friend, or maybe even I want to book something with you. You offer some pretty awesome services as it relates to somebody being able to book like world-class Alaska excursions through your company. How would somebody go about that? How easy is it? Is it a phone call? Is it a website click through? Is it send you an email? Walk us through what it looks like to use your service in a nutshell.
Well, we've got our main booking portal at bookayt.net, which is also accessible from Alaska and Yukon Tours. We're adding more to our portfolio every day, and so we're recently partnered with the company out of Anchorage for more tours in Anchorage for folks. We've been adding Seward, Denali, and also we get people out of town. So we do have some great rates with Aspen Suites, 4 Points in Anchorage and Juneau, Best Western in Fairbanks and here in Juneau. But we also have Crown Plaza in Seattle. Our rate is typically half the rate that you find online. And what we like about the Crown Plaza is it's right across the street from the airport. So when you get off your plane, you literally walk into the garage, go to light rail, downstairs, boom, you're right there. And that's an important point because in Seattle, the traffic to that airport can take shuttles half an hour to get in. So, if you're tired and cranky, it's 1 in the morning, you just want to get to your hotel, And so we really push that property. It's a good hotel. We focus on Belize in the winter and Hawaii. We have new rates with Hotel Molokai, which are about half off what you get on our website. And the Belize option has been fun. I've been going there since I was a kid. And, COVID opened up that door because a lot of retail agents didn't survive COVID. And thankfully, we do have the flexibility of both corporate business and leisure. Between myself and my agents, that we've been doing packages down there. It's amazing to go down to a new country. We speak English, take our money. 1 minute you're feeding a jaguar, and then later that night you're feeding stingrays. Concept. And new opportunities, and that's what I like doing. I like taking the travels I've done my whole life and sharing it with people. I like learning new things and actually understanding what it is. Just like with our business, there's a lot of Facebook travel groups out there, and I mentioned, hey, we're doing a series on the railroads. Do you guys have any questions? And to find out that a lot of folks were curious about accessibility on the train, and I never would have thought about that, unless I asked. And so we actually got pictures and demonstrations of the ramps for people, in a wheelchair or not accessible easily, what the lifts look like, what the elevator looks like in the train, and even the bathroom. So we really try to cover our bases so that way we can inform you as a traveler and make sure that you have a good experience. And I think that's where we're different. We pretty much tell you how it is. We tell you what to expect. So when there's a delay or cancellation, the difference between us and other people, we have access to Sabre, which is a reservation system. So, like, let's say you and your friend or your family are on a trip to Vegas and you're flying to Seattle, and if your flight from Seattle to Vegas cancels or gets delayed, we get notified of that, and we can actually rebook you instead of being on hold for 6 hours with, Delta or Alaska.
Oh gosh, yeah,
Right
we've all done that. We've all been on hold, plane full of people that have all had their flights canceled because they've been sitting on the freaking tarmac for an hour, and you're on the phone with somebody and it's like hold time 4 hours.
Yeah, no, and that's where people need to, if don't use me, use your local travel agent. Find out and ask the right questions. Do you have access to a GDS? Because again, for us, if go in and fix a ticket, rebook you, we pull it right up, rebook you, reissue your ticket, you're on your way. Whereas a lot of times if you book direct, you're now, number 120 and,
Yeah.
So that's one thing people forget about with travel agents is, we do provide a service, and a lot of times we do get a commission, so we don't charge a fee for it, but some agents do charge, and think of it, what's your sanity worth? Do you really want to be standing in line for 20 open seats after your flight gets canceled and be told you're not going to come up for a week? Or are you going to pay that $25 fee to get an agent on the phone who can rebook you immediately? And in essence, you're jumping that queue. And so I think that's where, as a profession, we're coming back because of some of the COVID shortfalls. I've even been guilty of it. I booked online using miles and kicking myself because my flight to Anchorage got canceled from Hawaii, got rerouted through Seattle, and then that flight ran 6 hours late. And, I basically had to get rebooked by the airline instead of just opening up my laptop, going in, grabbing that sheet, and going. And so I think that's where we're different. Alaska does have a couple of retail agents still. Like I said, we're located at the wharf in Juneau, right above Roma. And Anchorage has, I think, 3 or 4, and even Fairbanks has, I think, 2. Whereas before, every shopping plaza had one. But we are making a rebound, and a lot of it has to be because we have to take care of the customer. We have to take care of you and advocating for you. Even when things go wrong, we're here to help you. So whether it's a bad claim, missed flight, cancellations, which are on the rise, and right now everyone's freaking out over schedule changes. We get that. Like every Sunday morning is when we get our alerts. Schedule changes happen on Saturday. And we tell people, don't call on Sunday because you will be on hold for 6 hours.
Forever.
What airline staff is. I mean, I'm a 100K at Alaska. Even trying to get callbacks was, they call me back at 2 in the morning once. And so I think that's where we differ. Been there, we've experienced it, we know what it's like. So we can relate better. We're not, and again, back to your comment about some of the politicians. even then with COVID, they didn't hear from the constituents. Like right now, we are in a world of hurt. The fact that we don't have J1 visas is killing everybody. It's just with the owner of Tracy's Crab Shack here in Juneau, which is a very, very popular restaurant here in town. And she has 0. She normally has 10. And even in Denali, the Westmark Chalet, beautiful hotel, beautiful resort, she has 0. And she normally has about 200 J1 visas. And I think that it's a major distraction when we have issues at the border, but yet we can't get these J1 workers that have been here before to help us with their staffing.
Yeah, and those workers they typically help all over Alaska. They make up 10 to 20% of probably every hotel's workforce in the summer.
And that's kind of into the whole COVID situation with travel. Because we know this, we know who to book with. We can help advocate when like recently a resort closed. So we can help those travelers. Hey, this is open. Don't cancel your trip. It's kind of what we do. Again, we're here to show off the state. We want to help people. It's not always about making a buck. It's about doing what's right, which is continuing their trip, helping them relax. And people get so anxious lately when there's a delay or cancellation. So we're there to help them, walk them through it.
So Nate, where does somebody find you? We're running out of time here. So give us how somebody finds you, phone number, email, website. If somebody wants to book their Alaska or Yukon excursions through you, how does somebody get in touch with you?
We're online at alaskayukontours.com. We're also on Facebook and Instagram with the tag Alaska Yukon Tours. Phone number is 907-531-9140. Email also works, info at Alaska Yukon Tours. And like I said, we've got a nice collection of tour offerings online. We do custom packaging. Some of the hotels aren't all online, so we have to request those. But like I said, we're here to bring tourists in and get Alaskans out.
Nice. Well, thanks so much for joining us, Nate. Nate is the president of Alaska Yukon Tours. He has a company that focuses in the summer here in Alaska for making people's dreams come true and booking their kind of bucket list trip to Alaska, all over Alaska. He'll help with all the nooks and crannies of making sure your trip's amazing. And then in the winter, he'll help book you a trip to Belize and Hawaii, which is pretty awesome. I know I'm literally in Hawaii right now. So Nate, thank you so much for joining us here on the Must Read Alaska show. And thank you so much for our listeners for tuning in to the Must Read Alaska show. You can get our app at any of the app stores, both iTunes and Android app store for free, Must Read Alaska app. And we'll be, I think on what they say, Wednesday on Friday, I have a special guest Friday, and I have Senator Mike Showers next week. So that'll be a hoot to have Senator Mike Showers on. But from now, coming to you from somewhere in Hawaii, actually, I'm John Quick, and thank you so much for tuning in and joining us. Until next time, we'll hope to see you again. Thanks so much.